the Yogacara Bhumi, the section called Shravaka Bhumi. That's a very useful reference for those even who are kind of exclusively concerned with the Theravada or Pali tradition, and people react when they listen to what I say, and because they have their own standpoint, which I do respect, and I'm afraid to some extent I don't share many of the orthodox views. Like for example, the claim that Pali Buddhism represents pristine Dhamma. I think Pali Buddhism is extremely important, foundational, and the Pali Canon has great advantage because it is the only extant canon in the Indic language intact. And that's very important. But to be honest, we don't really know the exact wording and phraseology of the Buddha's teaching. What we know are from the manuscript records, which were, as you know, made in Sri Lanka later, not exactly at the time when the Buddha was preaching. When you look at Pali, for instance, scholars now generally agree that it's a language that exhibits mainly a Western kind of dialect. The main characteristic of Pali is one, pertaining to the Western region, and most likely Pali entered into Sri Lanka from the Avanti area. Yeah? And in fact, the text today, the Pali text today that we have, with all our deepest respect, and I myself also, basically coming from that tradition, we have to be objective. That's what I talked about yesterday, and to be able to transcend our own, the prejudice of our own sect, but at the same time not losing our respect and love for our people. So looking at it this way, you can't really say that Pali was the language spoken by the Buddha. What do you mean by that? If you mean by mother tongue of Buddha, then you have to think of the eastern, northeastern area. But Buddha was brought up in Kosala, right? But now today when we study Pali, the language of Pali, we see that, as I said, the main characteristics are those of an Eastern dialect. And we do see some remnants of the Magadhi expressions, and for instance, what is called Magadhism. I hope you understand what I mean by that. You hear words like Bhikkhave, Bhante. And these terms must be the remnants of the terms affectionately used by the Buddha and his bhikkhus around him in the Magadha area where the Buddha preached. So Buddha's language, do you mean mother tongue? It doesn't look like it should be a kind of a Western dialect. If you mean the dialect in which the Buddha actually preached in Magadhi, then it has to be some kind of Artha Magadhi, some kind of dialect of the Magadha area. So we can't be so dogmatic. And so from this perspective, I think we have to go beyond, as I say, our sectarian boundary and prejudices and discern the real teaching of the Buddha, of course primarily from the Pali Canon, but we should not be dogmatically confined to the Pali tradition. We have to go out to Pali. So here in our context, in the context of our discussion, it means that the Abhidharma tradition in the north, the so-called northern Abhidharma, that is as distinct from Abhidhamma tradition, the texts preserved in Sanskrit and mostly Burmese translated into Chinese, and then some translations were also preserved in the Tibetan. You have to go to all these sources. Yeah? So we mustn't have the attitude that just because something is not from the Pali tradition and not preserved in Pali, then it is not authentic Buddhism. Then it is secondary. Then it is even deviation. I think the student in India should be more mature than that. Yeah. So today we're going to share some material from the Northern Abhidharma tradition. Yeah. And then also the Yogacara tradition. Right? Of course, it is Mahayana. But you can't immediately reject, dismiss Mahayana as a deviation or corruption. Hardly that. That Mahayana tradition preserves something very, very profound that moves me, that moves the world of Buddhism. They bring out the human aspect of emotion, religious emotions, aspirations within. I think more successfully than Theravada as a tradition. I'm not talking about the Buddha teaching. I'm talking about traditions. Yeah? There's a lot of meaning in the rituals even. Yeah? In all types of practices in Mahayana. You got to understand the profound significance of them, not judging from the surface and dismiss them as just superstitions. I admire when I look at the Tibetan old men and old women, they just prostrate and bow down so spontaneously, naturally. And you can see that the totality of the being is involved in the devotion, not just their mind, not just the intellect and say, I'm Buddhist, Buddhism is a religion of wisdom, I don't need faith, and that kind of thing. And I know yesterday what I said, a lot of what I said invited reaction from the traditional Buddhists from Sri Lanka and other places. Yeah? But I think, so my plea to you is to really learn to discern the Dhamma of the Buddha, the Dharma of the Buddha. Why scared of using the Pali Sanskrit? To use the word Dharma or Abhidharma, it just indicates our inclusivistic attitude. It's not anything sectarian. It's not to indicate that the Sanskrit tradition is superior. Abhidharma tradition is not superior to the Pali Abhidharma. We do not mean that. Okay, so and also Yogacara. And you'll find that, as I said, the earliest stratum of the Yogacara Bhumi actually provides a wealth of material for us to ponder about the meaning of the early teaching of Buddha. So you go into it, that's the region where they are not preaching the developed doctrine of, for example, Miyagi Mantraka. They present a form of realism that can be shared even with the Pali tradition. So you look into all these materials, right? You find them very useful as a guide, as a methodological guide, systematic guide, for you to go back to the Pali sutras and discern the Buddha teaching at deeper levels. Okay. So first of all, then, the outline. It's a bit too big. Yeah? There are three major points I want to make. First is the integration of study and practice. Again, for many, it becomes a dichotomy. If you are interested in meditation, why should I study? Isn't intellectual study a hindrance? I myself, as an idealistic young monk, I was feeling that way actually, but I must say that I came out of that, and realized that study did not be just merely intellectual or even academic, and that study itself, properly done with mindfulness, itself is spiritual practice. You study in order to practice. In your practice, you study in order to understand your practice. So our emphasis is the integration of study and practice. Do not segregate these two in an exclusive manner. However, intellectual study should, we have to remind ourselves, should serve the purpose of meditative attainment and liberation. That's what I emphasized yesterday. Yeah. Secondly, we want to look more into what we mean by the totalistic context of meditation. You're going to see what I mean by that. The main emphasis here is that meditation must not be abstracted, isolated, yeah, taken out of context, of the totality context of spiritual life. And this is to examine what does it mean in the actual journey of one who begins to embark on meditative practice. How should one person prepare himself? What are the preliminary conditions that should be fulfilled? And that's what we're going to discuss the second part. And then we go on to give an actual exemplification, this time from the Shravaka Bhumi, right? In the spirit of what I explained, how though it is supposedly Mahayana text, but actually all the descriptions can be shared by those who are specializing in the Pali text. So exemplification from this Shravaka Bhumi, and this is on the preliminary for yoga, beginner yoga. If I want to embark on meditation and spiritual practice, what does it mean? How should I prepare myself? These are very practical questions. Okay. So first, to tell you the context of meditation. Yeah. By this, using traditional terms, I refer to the threefold training: Shiksha, Sikha in Pali, Shila, Samadhi, Pratyaya. Again, I'm using Sanskrit terms, but let me remind you, I'm not trying to be sectarian. Yeah, I'm a bhikkhu also. So no, I mean I want even those outside Pali tradition to be able to share. So these terms are meant to be, the Indian wording are meant to be inclusivistic. So meditation should be integrated, first thing, in the totalistic context of Shila, Samadhi, Pratyaya, not just abstracted as mere technique. Unfortunately today this is the trend, even in the so-called Vipassana movement, especially the Vipassana movement or mindfulness movement in the West. They have what is called the famous mindfulness-based therapy or therapeutic system. I don't endorse that, I'm afraid, yeah? And trying to securitize totally meditative practice. Yeah? We will talk about it later if we have an opportunity. So it's not just for merely physiological benefits. To cite an example, for instance, as a young monk, as an undergraduate actually in the university overseas, we as students, we formed the Meditation Society, International Meditation Society. This is part of, I think that term can sound already to many of you, a movement called Transcendental Meditation. Once it was a very popular movement, and those who are learning science and engineering science and so on, those students are very attracted. I was one of them, very attracted to this because they talk about science and meditation, always science and meditation, and then they want to convince you that by meditating you gain this physiological benefit, that physiological benefit. But it's too much about physiology. Yeah, that's very unfortunate. So nowadays, that's the reason why I dropped out of that movement, by the way, and returned to the Buddhist tradition. We can say that Buddhist meditation is very often clinically instrumentalized, to the extent that meditation or or Vipassana or more mindfulness is usually like an ice cream that you pop into your mouth when you have headache, and that problem is solved. So meditative practice comes to be reduced to such low level. Yeah, this is very unfortunate. Okay, so about this Shila Samadhi culture, you can say first Shila, but Shila does not mean just observing 5 precepts, 10 precepts, 20 precepts, 227, training factor and so on. Primarily, it means you must be ethically aligned. Yeah? And that involves not just externally imposing rules on yourself. My tradition requires me not to kill, so therefore I don't kill. Yeah? Requires me not to tell lies, so therefore I have to be honest. It's not a requirement, it's a question of requirement, not a question of duty or obligation. It's the case of inner responsibility. You feel that if I want to lessen my own dukkha and dukkha of others, right? How do I orientate in my living? How do I behave in such a way that my whole living, in which meditation is integral part, my whole living can conduce to more happiness for myself and others? This is Shila, and it can involve, for instance, and importantly, it should involve, I would say, your emotional aspect of it. You bow to the Buddha, you bow to your Bhante, you bow to your Guru, your teachers. Today, people have lost that in the modern world. Even India, I think India is better, but when you come to a westernized kind of society, people feel inhibited. They don't want to bow down. That's why I said, when I watch the Tibetan people doing it, I really admire them. Yeah? It's a gift. It's a gift for them. And most of them have lost the art of worship, respect. If the Buddha is in front of you, or even the picture, you mustn't be a rationalist and say, no, Buddhism is not superstition. I don't worship idol, it's idol worship. I'm an educated, smart person, and I can be a Buddhist in my room, switch on my AC, and think and write about meditation. No, you are a human being. You have all your 5 skandhas, which includes not just your rupa, but you have your vedana, you have your sankhya, you have your chetana. Buddhism is about transforming the totality of you, all the 5 skandhas, not just one aspect, not just the computer in your mind. Yeah? In fact, the heart is even more important. So, Shila, just as an example, should involve your religious emotion. You bring it out, you look at a great teacher or a great perfected being, Buddha, yeah? You feel inwardly aligned with that holiness and sacredness and that perfection. You feel, yes, as a human being, I'm also capable I also have the potentiality of being fully enlightened one day by the Buddha. The Buddha started like me. The Buddha was depressed. If he were not depressed enough, he wouldn't have left the home and left the palace. Yeah? And gave up everything. But he found true peace. Yeah? And he had to move upstream against the current of the general Indian religious culture at that time. So I also can do it. One day I can be a Buddha. I should aspire to be a Buddha, nothing less than that. It's not a question of pseudo-humility. If you are Buddhist, what it means is that you aspire the same goal of perfect enlightenment. One day, it may not be in this life, but you must begin your journey. Yeah? So that involves Very, very profound, very, very deep, emotional depth. So you look at the Buddha, even the picture of the Buddha, you feel, I must simply bow down. I don't care how people are watching me or how people will judge me. I don't care whether in a modern world or educated circle, I simply want to express my love, gratitude, admiration. And when you admire enough, your heart is moved and stirred, then you go on the journey of meditation. You go on the journey of Buddhist training. So it means in the gist that a seemingly simple act of worshiping the Buddha actually is a practice of Sila. Because you align yourself ethically. When you are moved, then tomorrow you think, from now on, how should I behave myself? Yeah? Not in a way worthy of my tradition or something like that, no. Not to be a good member of this society, this Buddhist society, this Buddhist standard, this Buddhist institution. But now my heart is stirred. I have a goal, ultimate meaning of my existence. I simply cannot help moving on, but I know that I'm going to encounter a great amount of obstacles. I will slip, I will fall down. I fall down every day. But I should be able to get up after falling down. Yeah, so all this involves religious emotion. So this cultivation, this refining of our religious emotion can be effectuated in the act of worship. Worshiping the Buddha. I gave recently a series of talks on Samantabhadra Bodhisattvas vows, Pranidhana, Charya Pranidhana. If you are interested, I think there are some recording online highlighting the act of worship. Yeah, the first step. You know, the first step of the 10 vows. Okay, so this is Sila, first thing. And of course, it also involves following certain recommended training factors. So these are the precepts. I'm not belittling the precepts. Yeah? I want to show that the Buddhist notion of Sila goes far beyond that of ethical requirements in a sociological sense or institutional sense. Okay? But this is the first step. If I want to meditate, first let me adjust my life. It must involve my lifestyle change. There must be commitment. You know, when we were into this movement called Transcendental Meditation, it is originated in India, by the way. They told us, you don't have to change anything. You go on as you are. No need to change your lifestyle. Yeah? No need to change your religion or even take up a religion. Okay? You do our meditation. If you get the right technique, everything will follow. That's what they say. You sail into cosmic consciousness every day, in and out. Yeah? It sounds so fantastic. We were attracted. And of course, they explain all these things in terms of science, neuroscience, you know, physiological observation and so on. When you meditate, you have a certain set of parameters that you can measure objectively. For instance, your heartbeat, your skin resistance, your brain wave pattern, and so on. And yes, if a person has less set of parameter, he is in a meditative state or in a certain meditative state. Even a particular meditative state. So everything explained in very scientific terms, very attractive for students who are young students who are studying science. So what they emphasize is technique. But today I want to emphasize technique is very important, but that technique must be integrated in the whole context of the spiritual living, which begins with ethical alignment. Hence, You can look at the Buddha teaching of faithful training, Sila, Samadhi, Prajna, in this way. On the basis of this foundation, then you cultivate what's called Samadhi. Again, let me remark on this word. And in English, I'm speaking English, I'm using English, I can't help it if I want to communicate in English. I don't speak Hindi. Unless you know Chinese, I can speak in Chinese. Which I do. I teach in Chinese also, I'm teaching Chinese. But I'm not sure even using Chinese, or maybe even Hindi, the language has been so much transformed by the process of westernization. You can't avoid a kind of Judeo-Christian type of conditioning coming into your discussion, even though it is not English. Okay? So, what do you see? How do people translate Samadhi? How do you translate Samadhi? Now you see your immediate answer is concentration. I'm afraid it's a very poor translation. Very poor translation. The least satisfied is satisfactory. Yet certainly it must involve the aspect of concentration, but it's much more than that. Samadha. Sam is completely, perfectly. Is fully. Holding your mind in harmony, not one-sided. So the Chinese has, for the Xuanzang translated said, 等持, for those who know Chinese, 等持, 持 is to hold, 等 is 均等, and 定, equal points. So these kind of concepts are much more than just simply concentration. You concentrate when you study your books. You play piano. Is that meant to play Samadhi? Yes. Maybe in a sense, yes. I don't reject that, but certainly Samadhi is much more. If not, how can we speak of the Noble Path as finally? What's the last step? Last or something? Noble Path? Samadhi. You mean to say that starting from Samadhi and so on, you only end up with just concentration. Unless you want to amplify what you mean by concentration, of course. Then you are philosophizing. So the word itself means something like, if you want to speak English, something like harmonization, unification, integration. You go to the Buddhist path, you become a fully harmonized, integrated personality. Fully balanced, not off balance. Now that is the true significance of the word Samadhi. So I prefer to translate as equal points. Equal points, not one-sided, fully harmonized. So all your energy through meditation, what you want to achieve is a complete unification of all your fragmented energy, all fragmented selves. Then on the basis of that unification or integration, this is the first step, or rather the second step on the basis, that is on the basis of ethical alignment. Then your mind is fit to see reality truly as it is. You can then attain Yatha Buddha Jnana. If your mind is fragmented, not harmonized, and conditioned in one way or another, to one degree or another, then you don't have true freedom. What you see, what you perceive, is just a case of superposition. You superimpose mentally, conceptually, and then that superposition is on the basis of the conditioning that you have acquired throughout your life as a child. And Buddhism would say, it goes, yesterday I emphasized that aspect of going to the samsaric perspective. In fact, Buddhism would say that you have been conditioned, in various ways, positively, negatively, throughout your samsaric journey. We would say, beginningless stuff, anadikali. So, In order to see things truly as they are, we must be truly free. You think you make a smart choice, you go to the supermarket, yeah, buy this brand, this is the best. Yeah, this is my choice. But it's not really, it's relatively freedom only. Because you have seen advertisement, you have read books, you have heard from your friends, you have seen the product being tested by your friend, you have trust in it. You are conditioned by all these factors. Then you decide already before you make a decision. And then you justify your inner conditioning by saying, yes, I have decided on my own free will. But this is not true freedom. To have true freedom, it means that you have to go beyond the condition. You know, the famous story in the Pali Sutta, you have Bahia story, you know? Can you remember that? Bahia was a merchant, businessman. He didn't have any contact with the Dhamma or with the bhikkhus, or he didn't know anything about the Buddhist ideal. And one day, he met with a shipwreck, on his business trip, and he ended up in a village in India. Somewhere, I say it's supposed to be somewhere near in the Bombay area. It's a historical episode. Then he had nothing. All his money was lost. All his possessions were lost. So he covered himself with bark, tree leaves. Yeah? And he had to go out begging in the village. Yeah? His life is extremely simple. And when the villagers saw him like this, they worshipped him and said, this person must be a arhat. So detached. So, pure in his mind. Not attached to any possession. And eventually he came to believe himself that he was arhat. But the story goes that he was reminded by a devata who was one of his former relatives. This all, I'm speaking from Pali, from the Pali tradition. Yeah? I think you know what I mean. The Bahia Sutta. You go to the Udana section. Then the Devata told him, no, don't be so deluded. You are not an Arahant. You don't have any special attainment at all. You believe you have. You were made to believe you have by the villagers. Then he was very almost shocked and said, yes, how can I truly get into the path of Arhathood? How can I follow proper instruction to become Arahant? And then he was told, go to this place, the Buddha is there, Gautama the Buddha, ask for his teaching. So immediately he set out a journey the whole evening. He was walking and then reached that place, and a lot of very interesting descriptions in the Udana Katha. We don't have time to go into details, but to cut the story short, he was what shall I say? Meta motivated, using Adam Maslow term, a famous psychologist. Meta motivated. Yeah? And for one of better term, you can even say that he is metaphysically motivated. He knew that there's something higher than the ordinary living, ordinary dimension of human experience. That's why yesterday I said why I prefer to understand Buddhism as a religion. Because we have to go into something higher. Not just the logical, rational analysis, the linguistic analysis of the Pali or the Sanskrit or the text. And this is offered by Buddhism. If you strip this out, then Buddhism is just nothing. But simply a so-called ethical system, a so-called philosophical system, a so-called psychology in the modern Western sense. Anyway, so he met the Buddha. He said, Bhagavan, please kindly give me a brief instruction. Life is short. All things are impermanent. that influence can fall on me and can fall on you even. The Buddha, yeah? Please don't give me I'm paraphrasing of course. Don't give me a lengthy intellectual discourse. I want a practice. I want meditative practice. Right? And I promise to devote myself fully to it. I want to be enlightened, if you like. I want to be Arahant. Then Buddha, of course, after he asked 3 times, he said, usually he doesn't answer questions when he's on Pidapata, but he turned around and he said, please read the sutta and check what I said. The Buddha only said, give a brief teaching. Ditte dittamatam vaisati. Sutte, utte, nyati. You know that, right? So, that's the meditation. Then vipassana in the full sense. Yeah? In seeing, only the seeing. In our case, this does not happen. When we see something or when we hear something, when we feel something, what happens is that all the conditioning come into it. We react. We're not creative, we are reactive. But that's not true creativity. Then we react. And we react on the basis of all the conditionings. We have no freedom. I think you know what I mean. Eh? Let's hope we have some future occasion I can expound on this. Eh? But anyway, it is said that Bahia, on the very spot, yeah, hearing the Buddha's instruction, brief, concise instruction, yeah, he immediately applied himself totally, fully, his whole being. That's interesting. That means the meditation is not simply a matter of crossing a lake and doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a particular technique. And he attained liberation. Yeah. So that is what this is a very interesting, extremely inspiring episode. Yeah, I think it inspires the development of meditation in China and Japan, and the Zen tradition, the so-called subtle enlightenment, and so on. I think inspired by episodes like this. And you find where you find it? You find it in the Pali Canon. Hence the importance of Pali Sutras. By saying that we should not be dogmatic, that to make a claim that Buddha spoke Pali and Pali Buddha represent Christian Buddhism, doesn't mean that we should lose our faith in Pali Buddhism. If anything, we should give more faith in Pali Buddhism, in Theravada Buddhism, in early Buddhism, in the Dhamma of the Buddha. All these I have basically expounded yesterday. So, Sila and Descent, ethical alignment, yeah, that is from your heart. Through Sila, must be the habitus, to use a sociological term, that has been internalized within you, from your heart. I don't kill because I can't feel like killing. I gain that feeling. I acquire that disposition of not wanting to kill, not wishing to kill, of avoiding killing from Buddhism, from the Buddha's teaching. And that is Sila. Okay? And then you go on to train your mind. That's the meditation part. Yeah? And what is it? It's a progressive unification, integration of the fragmented psychic energies. All your energies become unified, then you are fit to gain Pracha in that sense, like Bahia. Then only you can actually see things to it. Otherwise, we're open. As soon as a thought arises in our mind, all of us, including myself, everybody, yeah, because I'm not a saint, yeah, cannot be enlightened because it's inbuilt within us. When we perceive anything, we bifurcate into a subject-object. I see something outside. Yeah? So a duality. You cannot escape this entrapment, this imprisonment. And that's why, we cannot have true freedom and be liberated. Right, so meditation then should be within the context of Shila Samadhi Pratyaya. I hope I can say that in the sense that we have explained. Alright, coming back now to Abhidharma. You see, yesterday I emphasized so much that Abhidharma is not scholasticism, it's not mere philosophy, etc., and it is, in fact, a soteriology, a religious system. Let me quickly share with you some texts now. Texts are very important. Don't reject them. I'm here, I come here to listen to you on meditation while you're giving me all these textual material. Get into them and feel inspired by them. As you read these texts mindfully, perceptively, you are meditating. You should gain some transformation. So here, you see, for instance, just one or two examples. In the fundamental text of Sarasvati Abhidharma, there is called a text called the Jnana Prasthana, and the author is Katyani Putra. He explained why he took up meditation, Abhidharma study, and why he composed a supposedly intellectual work. He reflected like it. How can I make sentient beings non-erroneously take up the Buddha noble teaching? So he's aiming to make sentient beings take up teaching. They involve pranidhana, they involve adhisthana, they involve your resolution, your aspiration. You take up intellectual study not for the mere sake of intellectual mastery. Because you want to know the Dhamma correctly and apply the Dhamma in such a way that you become trained enough, fit enough to lead sentient beings, right? To understand the Dhamma in a non-erroneous manner. So, how can I make sentient beings non-erroneously pick up the Dhamma, diligently reflect, feel inspired, and then contemplate on them? This is meditation. So that innumerable defilements will not manifest to them and become capable of penetrating into the profound Dharma nations. In other words, then the person becomes inspired, motivated, he takes some meditation, and he gains so-called profound wisdom. Then that wisdom leads him to penetrate into the true nature of reality. So here is something that we have to remember. Why do we need Abhidharma? Why do we need to study at all if you are interested only in meditation and practice? A unique feature of Buddhism, and in this case of Abhidharma, is that it gives intellectual, including even scholarly study, its due place. It doesn't reject logical thinking, rational understanding, even academic investigation. So these are given their due places. But all this study must, the important thing is it must subserve the ultimate purpose of gaining prajna, liberating insight, for which meditation is a sine qua non. You cannot do without meditation to do that. That's why we must meditate. Talking so much about Pratityasamutpada and all the, lofty theories, it's good, I say that I'm inspired by this teaching, and I spend a lot of time on them, but these alone cannot lead you to liberation. You must meditate, as the statement says. You must meditate. So meditation is essential. If you don't meditate, then you're not really a good Buddhist. You can't even call yourself Buddhist. You don't have to run in the forest. No, everybody can do that. Or to become a monk or nun. I don't mean that at all. But meditation must be an integral part of your life. Spend about at least 20 minutes a day. You can do that. Half an hour, you can do that. Yeah? So now, let me share with you another passage. This is from the Abhidharma Mahavibhasha. As I said, compilation beginning from around the Common Era, Christian era, which is very ancient, yeah, and preserved in Chinese translation by Xuanzang, yeah. And we see that they speak about, in fact, the whole of Abhidharma studies and understanding. Study, please do not immediately take that to mean academic studies, okay? Yeah, the whole of Abhidharma studies, yeah, as actually meditation, summarized by Shamatha Vipassana. The difference is that some people begin more on the Shamatha path, if you like, oriented more towards Shamatha at the beginning, others towards Vipassana. So this is called the Prayoga stage, the first stage, the preparatory stage. Prayoga is the preparatory effect. Traditional either primarily devotes to meditative practice. See, from ancient times, from the Buddha's time, right, it is accepted that we have all different temperament, different orientations, even different karma, different samsaric background. We can't reject this. So we have different dispositions. And we also have experience that we become internalized, becoming our habitus, if you like. Yeah? So this is accepted. So there will be some who either primarily devote to meditative practice, or some primarily to doctrinal understanding. As I said, this understanding and studies serve as inspiration, move them in stir their heart and to come to actual living and practice. It's not just mere, simple, intellectual, textual investigation. But this is at the Prayoga level. But both must equally aim at meditative insight. This is the important thing. They must ultimately gain meditative insight. Whether you start more primarily, more orientated towards meditation or towards understanding, yeah, you must aim at meditative insight. So meditation is important. Huh? To be attained at the time of when you enter the path. Not just in the path of Darshana Marga, simply means, in simple term means, when you enter into the critical point of no return. You do meditation, you lead the ethically aligned life, you do meditation. One day you have to come to that critical entry of no return. And that's called Darshana Marga. You, in the flesh of insight, yeah, although it's said to last so-called 16 shana, and shana is so short that basically it's the flesh of insight, you become totally transformed. You emerge from that. This is if you like meditation par excellence, you emerge out of that meditative experience as what you may call a new man. I'm sorry to use the word man, and not to mean to offend the feminist attitude, and that is equally to be respected. So I'm using a neutral term, a new being. You become a new man. This is a modern philosophical term in the West. You are an Arya. There are no more Krishna-jana, Buddha-jana in Pali. You're an Arya. Yeah? So this is the point of no return. Okay? How do you do that? You practice, you meditate. You must meditate. And then you come to that point. This is following the path described by Sarvastivada. You see, in Sarvastivada, the whole path of cultivation, spiritual cultivation, right? And it's basically meditative path, and very concrete, very detailed terms. So you come to this stage, first from a yoga stage, you come to Rajna Marga stage. Yeah. And when you speak of that text says two types, right? Prajna, one is Samatha, Vipassana, but both of them are accepted, yeah, and both of them have to finally aim at meditative insight. So what the Samatha, those at the preparatory stage, the yoga stage, who always delight in solitude and shun civilization. Yeah? So that type is respected and accepted. Nothing wrong about that. Because we're all different. Yeah? If you are at that time, you want to shun socialization, you want to always be solitary, this is some other type. The other type is more the Vipassana type, the insight type. Those who at the preparatory stage always delight in study, interesting, what do? They study, delight in study, and these are not my words, these are actually the words of the text. Preserved in Chinese, and originated from Sanskrit, by the way, from India. Yeah? Always delight in studying and reflecting on the Tipitaka. They study. They repeatedly examine the specific and general characteristics of Bodhidharma. Look at this statement. Does it bring something in your mind? Examination of so-called specific and general characteristics, right? Swalakshana and Samayalakshana. This is the domain of Abhidharma. So, what these Abhidharma experts are saying in this passage is that there's a type that you can call Vipassana type. And they appear to be more interested in understanding and studying, but they are not simply scholar in the abstract sense, in the abstract Western sense. Yeah? What do they study? They study Abhidharma. And that shows the importance of Abhidharma. As you study Abhidharma, yeah, you come to understand, we defined Abhidharma yesterday. Can you remember? It's that Raja which brings you face to face. Can you remember that? To what? To reality, Nirvana, or to the real, the true existence. All the forces that impact on your mind, they make you polluted, corrupted, or they make you feel more freedom and become purified. All the processes must be studied and understood. So today, most all of you, for instance, I dare say most of you in this situation are more oriented in this way. You want to know. You're inquisitive. You want to find out what happened to my mind. How do I meditate? What does this doctrine mean? Can I be benefited by this doctrine? That doctrine? This is all investigation, Abhidharmic investigation. Yeah. So, even intellectual study of Abhidharma is given in due place. In fact, is essential from their point of view. Yeah? There's essentially the same soteriological purpose as meditation practice in a narrower sense, going to the forest or shunning the crowd and so on. So now next, I put it to the AI and asked the AI to generate a nice presentation. Unfortunately, many of my words are cut off. I had done just this morning I did it, but I have more detail in my PPT file. Anyway, this is part of, now it comes to the other text, the Yogacara tradition. Just now I quoted the Abhidharma tradition. And now I'm going to share with you some text from the Yogacara tradition. This is from Sanskrit, translated in English also. Yeah? So, here, in a very interesting section, yeah, in a text called the Shravaka Bhumi, yeah, in a text called the Shravaka Bhumi, this is a word, not the word Shravaka, it's about the Shravaka part, it's not about Bodhisattva part, not about Mahayana part. Yeah? So it has tremendous significance for those who want to understand more deeply about preaching preserving Pali also. Don't reject them simply because they are not in Pali. Yeah? So, a beginner, talking about beginner, the word for beginner, Adhikaramika. Tat Pradama Abhidharmika is one who is an absolute first timer, beginner as a first timer. So, for such a person, first you can see the concept there, you can read yourself. Atma Kamena Ugalena Swartam Anuprapto Kamena Adhikamikena Tat Pradama Kamikena Yogaja Acharya Upasam Tavya. That means an acharya, a master who is versed in yoga, who knows yoga. What is yoga? Not the yoga exercises. Not only the hatha yoga, but this part of it. But yoga in the sense of spiritual practice. Okay? So Yogaja Acharya is a master who is versed, who is knowledgeable about spiritual practice. You know what yoga means? This is the tradition of Yogacharya. He must be Upasamkramitarya. He must be approached. So it means that the beginner, first thing, must look for a teacher. Humbly, you need a teacher for meditation. This is what you learn here. Yeah? He must be approached. Upasamkram is like a Pali, Upasangama, so on. Upasamkramitarya should be approached. Right? How? Chaturshu Staneshu Smritim Upasthabya. Having established Upasthabya Smriti. So you must practice mindfulness. You see, mindfulness is not only about walking up and down in a particular set of exercises. What is that? Good exercises. Mindfulness. Actually, you can see that serves as a preliminary requirement for us to embark on spiritual practice. You must have mindfulness. And this mindfulness is regard to 4 stanzas, 4 things, 4 places, 4 aspects. Chaturshu Staneshu. Yeah? So this is the English translation. You can see the English. So he must approach that teacher. How should he approach? Now, next is about the mental state of that beginner meditator. Yeah? He must be one. The teacher must approach by the Abhidhamikena, by the Abhidhamika. How is it? This is adjective. Aja Abhiprayena. Right? With the Abhipraya for Ajna, for perfect knowledge. Right? So he is one aspiring for, intending perfect knowledge. Before he goes, he must make sure that he has the correct motivation. Yeah? First is, he must have Abhipraya for Ajna. Then, na Upalampa Chittaya. This is the case, right? Not with the mind, not with the state of mind, chitta. That is Upalampa. That means not the mind of arrogance. Yeah? A stubborn arrogance. I'm equal to my teacher. I don't need to bow to him. I shake his hand because in the West people shake hands. Why should I bow down? Yeah, I'm just asking because it's just new to me, not that I'm inferior in wisdom. That kind of person, you should not have that mentality. In other words, you will have true humility. The Sa Gauraven, together with respect, esteem, like this, and not thinking that you are samanas sampata. You do away with samanas sampata. That is to say, as I said, I'm just equal I only have to shake hands, I don't have to worship him, I don't have to bow down. I'm samana. You know, that kind of self-aggrandization. Not that kind of mind. And then, he should be one who is Kim Kushala Kavesi. Similar word in Pali. Seeking the good. Why do I want to do meditation? Why do I want to go to the teacher? Because I want to know what is good. What is good? What is true? What is beautiful? Yeah? I have to be meta motivated. I should not be just simply motivated by basic needs, right? In terms of Maslow's psychology. So seeking the good. And not just for my self-actualization. Atma, bhavana, not for that, for the sake of it. Atma, bhavana, artham. And he must have this resolution in mind. It is, I am a Prime Minister, I link up myself with others, with the root of goodness, with the root of skillfulness, not for the sake of gain and honor. So first of all, you must begin to purge your motivation. Nobody is perfect at the beginning. Yeah? You don't even know why you want to learn Buddhism or meditation. But you must be mindful and reflect. What is in my mind? What is pushing me towards meditation? So it's a greater process of progressive purging of your motivation. Yeah? This is like, in terms of the Noble Path, you have to start with samadhi, and samadhi is clearly, definitely not just a matter of right understanding. It's again very poor translation. Yeah? It's a perfect vision. Sama is perfect vision. Samyak drishti. Yeah, you have such a vision. You see the truth and you realize that in front of the Buddha I bow down. I feel that this potentially of Buddha is within me. I can unfold my human potential to the highest like Buddha. You know, you have a vision, you have a goal. And then you must go to Sammasankappa. That is to really purge yourself in terms of motivation. You make sure you have proper will, proper motivation. Then you move on. Then motivation will move you on. Not just to get your physiological benefits, getting you a job as a center of meditation. You want nothing less than seeking the good, we have seen. Nothing less than benefiting all sentient beings and yourself, and not for self-aggrandization. So like that. So I think I must apply myself, I must connect myself up. This is Yoja Yishyami. Yoja Yishyami is a future tense, there is a causative. Yoja to make to join. I connect up with others, right? With the Buddha of skillfulness. This is in a very concise description. It spells out the correct, the necessary mental states of a beginner meditator. And then, this is one part. You don't forget that, first of all, you are told that you must seek a teacher. Yeah? And you must remind yourself the transformative power of Kalyana Mittata. Then you gain, you progress, you mature in the context of spiritual fellowship, not just alone. You're inspired by your fellow practitioners, you're inspired always by a teacher, or always looking at the statue That's why it's very important to have that you, and I suggest if before you meditate, you must worship the Buddha. We do that right, in our center. Do some Pali chanting, it will be so and so on, and come and sit down, and just remind yourself like you bring yourself back to the time of the Buddha. You feel like you're literally under the feet of the Buddha. Then you meditate. Then, try this. You have a very different experience. So, the Buddha is the Kalyana Mitta Bharakshana. The teacher also, right? In terms of ordinary human being, you need a human teacher. We told you to relate directly as human to human. You feel the inspiration coming from the teacher. The teacher then has a very important part in that dynamic interaction with you in your meditative practice. He must inspire you, he must encourage you, he must forgive you, he must accept all your shortcomings. He must be ready to share, to give, the Dharma. So if you have all these, then you're very fortunate. You can see that it makes a big difference. So this, so before that, continuing with the beginner seeker, he preached the teacher. And then, Emam cha punar upasamkramya, having approached, right? What happened? He will ask for a proper time, right? An occasion, avakasam, for his inquiries, for his instruction. Then how does he do it? He puts on the usual one. He puts on his robe on one side or one shoulder, and then kneel down, on the ground, and then Nicha Tarake Asana, you sit there. Having seated on a low seat, what it suggests, the person must be respectful and humble. Today, in a commercial society, they want quick food. They want quick food, I can buy from you, but I have no time. I'm a businessman. I have only 10 minutes. I have to go back to my office. But I have money. How much do you want? I give you. But I don't want to sacrifice my time. Meditation, tell me the right technique immediately. I'll tape record it and video it, and then I have my cup of coffee on the sofa and listen to you, This is it. And then I will immediately become a Buddha, I hope, But it doesn't matter how much you want, I can pay the price. But this is not for you. You don't want to sacrifice. There's no inner commitment. These are the things we are talking about. So this person is not like that. He must be very humble and very genuine, respectful, and then he asks for the yoga. Yoga, ayachitavya. Yoga is to be requested. Should be requested in this way by a person who is like this. So having just approached, having requested for the time, having arranged the upper robe and so on by the Pali, and place the right knee on the ground, then set out on the lower seat. This is the Indian tradition, the great tradition, not only in Buddhism, in the whole of the Hindu civilization also. Respect for teacher, humility, sincerity. You can say that the Buddhists inherited that. Today we have lost that. As I said, we want quick food. If you want so-called equality, I don't have to bother, I don't have to request. I give a telephone call, email, and you ask for the price. I can pay it. And I want the instruction immediately. Immediate effect. But they will never succeed there. Okay? Then he said, this, what is the I'm Venerable Master, I'm one who seeks yoga. Please explain yoga to me out of compassion. Kampam, Padaya. Please have compassion on me and teach me. I want to learn. I'm seeking. So it's only when you are so, if you like, metaphysically prepared or meta-motivated, better, yeah, that you really learn. There's a lot of food for us. Then, next, the teacher, as I say, as a Karaya Mitra, he has a role. He must, having understood the sincerity, the seriousness, yeah, and the humility of the seeker, now as the teacher, he must inspire, encourage him. So the two important words here. Samute Saitavya. This is the attitude to the person, the Abhidhamika. And Sampra Harsaitavya. First word means he must inspire, he is to be inspired, he is to be encouraged, or even to be fired up, taking the literal meaning of teach, tejas. He must be fired up, get feel stirred up and inspired. And then he must be collected. Sampra Harsayati, he must be collected, make happy. And this is very important. When you struggle, and you know that you're going to face a lot of hardship, you must put yourself seriously. You need joy. It's very important to feel joyful. What do you call Dharma Priti. You need joy, you need happiness. Yeah? I fall down, I make mistakes, yeah? And my defilements all come out every now and then. But nevertheless, as a whole, I must feel the encouragement, joy, courage to move on. So the teacher must encourage, must strengthen the students. Beginner first timer should be encouraged and should be glad. This is my translation by the yogi, who is the knower of yoga. Yeah? When the teacher is tasked and treated. And then he said, I just cite a few examples of what he said. He said, oh, wonderful sadhu sadhu. Bhaktamukha. Oh, the noble one. Good one. It is you who, among the populace fallen into heedlessness, you alone desire to gain nirvana. You know that true security is not a security, and to paraphrase a bit, in the modern sense. You don't find security in the modern system of even psychology, etc. The true security, the actual security is nirvana. You have understood that. Right? Among the whole populace fallen into heedlessness, pramada. You now make a decision to take up meditation, to practice spirituality. So you have one who does not abandon meditation and who is now inside. Now, the real emphasis comes now. Yeah? In other words, yes, I know you. You are fully committed to meditation and committed to gaining spiritual insight. You are doing the right thing now. You come to request for yoga. Don't forget, yoga here means spiritual practice, particularly meditation. And then he's reminded, he's helped to be mindful of the purpose of the spiritual journey. He's praising him. See, whether the beginner has come that far, a different matter, but the teacher is saying you have done that. Yeah? Okay? So, you are practicing for the benefit of yourself and for others. In other words, this reminder of the true purpose. And then, I will finish within 5 minutes. then he must be questioned. The teacher then, after praising him, encouraging him, inspiring him, firing him up, and gladdening his heart, yeah, then the teacher questioned him in 4 aspects. And this questioning is actually meditative. Brings him into meditation to understand, analyze his own mentality. And he asked, I hope, Kachit, I hope that you are exclusively gone for refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha. This is very important in Buddhist tradition, that you really take up the Buddhist path. First you must go for refuge, and it must be a genuine refuge. Today I go guru shopping. He's a good teacher, another one is a good teacher, another one, someone sells a product to me, I dip over. It's not like that. Exclusive for refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, this is the first thing. And then, as I said, your Shila must be purified, so moral discipline, and your Drishti must be strict. Richi. So you must upright understanding. In other words, correct understanding, not upside down. Yeah? And very important, finally, your mind must be resolved. I hope that your mind must resolve on, I trust that your mind resolve on nirvana. What you want is nirvana. And that you, in fact, you have become a monk or a nun, or Buddhist, Pasaka, Upasaka, you have 1/4 with nirvana as your intention. So through this process, these are 2 examples. We don't have time to go on further. You can see that, therefore, in this section, in the Mahayana text called Yogasara Bhumi, in the section called Shravaka Bhumi, we are very minutely, we are guided in detail, concretely, to prepare our mind as a beginner. What are the preliminaries I must fulfill? How to examine my inner motivation? How I benefit from the karmic kata with my teacher? How can I feel joy and encouragement? With all this, then only you truly embark on meditation. Then only the teacher will really instruct you. This is another story. In a whole very long, passages. You can see that I don't have time to, but you can see that all these texts are there. If you are interested, I can share with you Sanskrit text and the English translation. Very detailed. So, to say the least, is not in any way inferior to the material you gain from Visuddhimagga. So then you begin to appreciate that this Mahayana text and this text like this can be extremely helpful, not for intellectual study only, but for meditation and spiritual practice. Okay, thank you very much.
So, friends, and today you have got a test of the presentation that Venerable Professor W.B. has given before us today. Now, more in for a few focused questions. Don't ask anything that you want to ask. Focused, meaningful questions. A few. Yes.